astrologer charted the movement of planets and interpreted their influence on the affairs of
man. The Sun is indeed a profound paradox. As the central force of our solar system, it is the linchpin of existence here, without which nothing could survive. Its energy drives the climate, dictates the seasons, and fuels all life forms, from the smallest microorganisms to the most complex ecosystems. Yet, despite its monumental power and fundamental role, the Sun operates largely in the background of our daily lives. It does not boast about its indispensability, nor does it seek our acknowledgement or praise. Except on particularly scorching days, or when it is absent, we seldom pause to consider its presence or the enormity of its influence. This subtlety is a remarkable aspect of the Sun's nature. It shines without seeking recognition, providing endlessly without terms or conditions. It embodies a pure form of giving, offering warmth, light, and energy, asking nothing in return, influencing without interfering. In this way, the Sun is a model of true power, not as something exerted over others, but as a force that supports and sustains, that enables rather than controls. How curious it is that we depend so completely on something that does not demand our attention or involvement. It simply gives, saying, "Here is life, do with it as you will." The heat and light that the Sun produces gives life, but it can also take it away. Thus, the tremendous power that the Sun wields is destructive as well as constructive. In Tiphereth, we arrive at the realm of the higher self, the Sun within ourselves. Thus, we get a glimpse of this power and, for the first time, become capable of being co-creators. It becomes necessary then to learn how to be responsible stewards of this power. As Qu'o says, "The creation of the Father is interrelated by webs of love and service. The power to disrupt this web is within your being." What is this power that's found in Tiphereth? The power is the metaphysical power of your will. Qu'o says, "The focusing of your will is the magical act that creates a change in consciousness for you." To grasp the concept of will, we can look back at an insightful channeling session conducted by Qu'o with the LL Research Group in 2009. During this session, Qu'o outlines 3 distinct aspects of will. In its first aspect, will emerges as undirected energy, raw, chaotic, and unformed. It represents pure potential, a force awaiting focus to bring it into alignment and order. The second aspect of will is personal and active, expressed through the choices we make that shape our lives. These decisions, often made with limited awareness, can feel reactive rather than deliberate. Who we partner with, where we live, the work we pursue, these choices sometimes feel beyond our grasp, as if dictated by fate or some external power. This is a place of shadow where the path forward is often obscured, and it can be challenging to discern the choice that resonates with our higher self. The third aspect is a higher expression of personal will, having to deal with being able to consciously direct force, thus enabling one to have a force behind their will. This enables one to create, manifest, and direct forces directly within the physical. In other words, to become a co-creator. On the service to others path, this involves aligning your will with that of the one infinite creator, becoming akin to a sun that radiates light outward, energizing and uplifting those around you. On the service to self path, the approach is one of control, where an individual harnesses the power of the one infinite creator strictly for personal gain, often at the expense of others. In essence, the service to others path radiates energy outward like the sun, providing nourishment and support to others, while the service to self path reflects that solar energy inward, concentrating all power on self-serving interest rather than extending it outward. Regardless of the path taken, whether STO or STS, the individual gains potency as their will is empowered by a substantial force. This force is described as intelligent energy in the law of one channeling. Power in this context is completely different from what we typically think of as power. One might immediately think of a physically strong individual or a wealthy person as someone who possesses power. A strong individual can overpower someone weaker, and a rich person can use their wealth to exert influence. Yet because these rely purely on the material world, they are misleading indicators of power. To believe that this is true power is like a child believing that they can rearrange the stars by drawing on a foggy window. Qu'o says, "An entity who is living in the world does not have power. It is very rare that an undisciplined personality can muster his will and have force behind it. True power stems from the one infinite creator and an individual's capacity to connect with the higher realms. In the service to others path, this involves harnessing faith to establish a connection through Tiphereth to the higher Sephiroth. This connection acts like a bridge, enabling one to serve as a conduit for these elevated forces, channeling their energy and influence to enact positive change and uplift others. Without the foundational force provided by the one infinite creator, nothing in our material world can truly possess power, and it is in Geburah where the right use of power is explored." The archetype of the king represents the ideal qualities of leadership, authority, and responsibility. This figure embodies strength, wisdom, and the ability to govern with justice and fairness. The king is a protector of his realm, tasked with maintaining order and ensuring the well-being of his subjects. As a symbol of authority, the king must balance power with compassion, recognizing that true strength lies not only in enforcing laws, but also in nurturing and uplifting those he governs. He is a unifying force, promoting harmony and cooperation among his people. The throne and crown symbolize his divine responsibility, reflecting both the authority of Malkuth and the harmony of Tiphereth, the true center of kingship. In the Tree of Life, Geburah and Chesed represent two aspects of the king's dual nature: discipline and generosity. Geburah portrays the king in his chariot, prepared for battle, embodying strength and the power of judgment. Chesed represents the king on his throne, ruling with wisdom and mercy. The synthesis of these forces occurs in Tiphereth, where true kingship is realized, balancing justice with compassion and power with responsibility. In Geburah, the adept comes to understand the force of divine judgment and restriction, recognizing the profound responsibility required to wield power correctly. Initiates into Geburah are forced to confront the complexities of power and the necessity of discipline, learning that the strength they wield must be matched by wisdom and discernment. Failure to integrate this lesson carries significant consequences, leading to imbalance, either through excessive severity and destruction or through a loss of control resulting in chaos. This is one reason Geburah is often seen as a difficult initiation. In truth, the challenges arise not from Geburah itself, but from the adept's resistance, whether through ego, fear, or the refusal to surrender control. The path of Geburah demands discipline, humility, and the wisdom to wield power responsibly. Power can be defined as the capacity to effectively exert your will in order to influence outcomes, create change, and manifest your intentions in the world. Qu'o emphasizes the essential importance of discernment and understanding will as one begins to embrace their personal power. As you move beyond the desires of the body and the desires of the mind into that emptiness filled with devotion which comes to you in that inner room, you are preparing yourself to be a powerful person. It is when you have become this powerful person that you must be exceedingly careful with the use of the will. Qu'o cautions that one must be careful in the use of the will, as an empowered will can lead to more direct and potent manifestations. This is akin to the magician who has the ability to create change, or the shaman who can navigate beyond the illusionary aspects of the astral realm to channel divine forces from higher dimensions. A magician who successfully manifests results through their will must also cultivate discernment, understanding the full implications of his actions to prevent unintended consequences. Similarly, a shaman who channels higher archetypes must recognize that the forms they create for these forces to inhabit will manifest as real, influential powers in the world, capable of inspiring reverence or even attracting a following. Without caution, this can lead to unforeseen complications. This is the wisdom of Geburah, the force of judgment that ensures the right application of will. Without proper restraint and precision, power can become uncontrolled, leading to consequences beyond one's original intent. As you can see, considerable discipline is needed to be properly initiated into Geburah. While we can become a powerful person, without the necessary discipline of Geburah, we are liable to become destructive. Thus, Geburah's association with war, destruction, and strife arises when power is applied without wisdom or balance. Geburah can be likened to a warrior or a knight, not one who seeks battle or boasts of strength, but one who embodies discipline, calmness, and inner power. This strength is held in reserve, deployed only when necessary, ensuring that force is applied with precision and purpose. This represents the ideal expression of Geburah, measured strength guided by wisdom. One who wields power must exercise careful judgment to ensure it is used correctly. Misapplication of this power leads to destruction, oppression, and unnecessary suffering. In the realm of Geburah, power is not just a tool, it is a responsibility. The warrior within us must learn to discern when to act and when to hold back, understanding that true strength lies in restraint and wisdom. Each decision made with this power has the potential to create ripples that affect not only the immediate environment, but also the broader world around us. Actions, no matter how inconsequential you believe them to be, can have far-reaching consequences that extend beyond time and far into the future. This becomes even more important to consider the greater your will becomes. As the adept advances, even thoughts and visualizations have consequences as it becomes possible to use thoughts in a directed manner. The more refined and focused your will, the more significant the impact it can have on the world around you. This is where the teachings of Geburah become particularly vital. They remind us that with increased power comes the necessity for discernment and ethical consideration. Every thought, every intention, and every action has weight and should be considered carefully. From Geburah, we learn a few crucial lessons: the importance of discipline, the need for careful judgment, and the understanding that power must be wielded responsibly to avoid harm. We can visualize this by understanding Tiphereth as the sun, radiating light and harmony, while Geburah represents the raw, unyielding power within the sun. This power, if unbalanced, can become destructive, yet when properly directed, it sustains life. Thus, the great lesson of Geburah is the right application of power. This wisdom is fully realized only when seen through the lens of Chesed, which tempers strength with mercy and compassion. One of the most powerful acts of magic is simply being thankful. Thankfulness is fundamentally about recognizing and appreciating the gifts we receive, whether they come from people, nature, or a higher power. This recognition fosters a sense of connection to others and to the world around us, which is central to the concept of Chesed. The Zohar speaks about awakening above by awakening below, meaning when we express gratitude, we stimulate higher divine Chesed, drawing down blessings into the world. By being thankful, we acknowledge the loving actions and support we receive, reinforcing the positive energies associated with the Sephiroth. This is why many mystical traditions emphasize daily gratitude practices, blessings before meals, morning prayers, and spontaneous expressions of thanks. These acts are not just rituals, they are tools for drawing the divine down into our reality and increasing our ability to receive. Chesed is the embodiment of the benevolent, expansive quality of the Logos. It is the first fully emotive and outward-directed expression of divine energy. It represents the energy that builds, that takes an idea and expands it into reality. Chesed is the side of the king, associated with benevolent rulership, while Geburah is the side of the king, associated with disciplined action and precision. One expands, the other restrains. A king who only embodies Chesed gives endlessly without structure, leading to chaos. A king who only embodies Geburah rules with severity and restriction, leading to oppression. The balance between them is Tiphereth. If Geburah represents the fire of the sun, then Chesed represents the light. Fire enlivens and catalyzes, while light reveals. It shows us where the potential is, and with the right application of fire, this potential can be released. Light, by its nature, is expansive. It stretches outward, illuminating the hidden potential contained within the all. This unrestricted flow is the essence of Chesed, where divine energy begins to take form, setting the stage for manifestation. However, illuminating potential is only part of the equation. For creation to be meaningful, Chesed must be balanced by Geburah, which defines and shapes this expansive force. Together, they release potential and expand the boundaries of existence. Chesed pouring forth opportunity, Geburah refining it into order. In magic and Qabalah, Chesed is often invoked in rituals aimed at increasing luck. Why is Chesed associated with luck? Light spreads freely and without discrimination. It pours out in all directions, illuminating everything in its path. Luck works similarly. It is divine overflow, the unexpected revelation of hidden opportunities. Just as light reveals potential, Chesed opens doors that logic and merit alone would not. Luck feels like a gift of possibility, a sudden chance we couldn't have planned for. This is because Chesed operates beyond strict cause and effect. It channels divine abundance without judgment, offering blessings that transcend limitations. In Chesed, we encounter the first expression of divine expansion, the point where infinite potential begins to flow outward into creation. As the foundation of divine generosity, Chesed serves as a channel through which intelligent energy moves into existence, allowing life and possibility to unfold. It embodies prosperity, abundance, and expansion, the inherent qualities of the one infinite creator. This reminds us that the natural state of the universe is not one of lack or limitation, but of continuous growth, overflowing generosity, and limitless potential. Yet, for creation to take true form, this expansion must eventually be tempered and directed, a role fulfilled by the balancing force of Geburah. Diane Fortune writes in the mystical Qabalah that Chesed represents the formulation of the archetypal idea, the concretion of the abstract. Raw, limitless divine will, which exists in pure potential in the higher Sephiroth, finds its first meaningful expression in Chesed, where it takes form as the fundamental patterns of existence. Robert Wang, author of the Qabalistic Tarot, expands on this, writing, "The image of a mighty and loving ruler conveys the idea that it is a potency which guides and controls the course of manifestation. It establishes the underlying framework on which matter is built." The Zohar states that the world is built on Chesed, meaning that love is the foundation upon which all worlds emerge. Robert Wang further suggests that Chesed corresponds to the realm of universal forms, the pure, unchanging archetypes that shape physical reality. He writes, "It is the realm of the archetypes described by Plato in the 9th book of his Republic, and the various symbols of Chesed make suggestions about the function and purpose of these archetypes. The first is the pyramid, a tetrahedron used as a building form by the society which gave us the first monumental stone architecture. It brings together 4 sides, each of which points upwards. Energy flows down from above and is spread equally through each of the sides. Thus does Chesed contain all the holy powers. It is a renewed manifestation of the 4, encountered first in the primordial elements of Kether, and establishes the archetypal pattern for matter fully expressed in the subdivided elements of Malkuth. Moreover, we recall the pentagram as the symbol of perfected mankind, having 4 lower elemental points in the upper point of spirit, which is a directing force once the elements are in balance. The principle of the pyramid is the same, and amplifies the text which described Chesed as measuring and cohesive, as well as receptacular, meaning that it is a receptacle for the higher powers. It is believed that pyramidal structures, such as those in Egypt, were used to balance planetary energies and assist in spiritual initiation. Just as sacred architecture can serve as a conduit for higher forces, Chesed acts as a spiritual vessel, drawing divine light from the unmanifest and channeling it into creation. As the first Sephiroth in the process of creation, Chesed marks the beginning of manifestation, yet on the path of the return, it is also the final gateway before dissolving back into the infinite, where divine love overcomes all boundaries. Those with awakened vision will perceive Chesed as a hidden light illuminating all things, revealing the unity and love underlying existence. To see through the lens of Chesed is to perceive the hidden divine light within all things. This light is the foundation that sustains and connects all of existence. This light is love. Fire and light go hand in hand. Likewise, Geburah and Chesed go hand in hand. While Chesed is the receptacle for the unmanifest to manifest itself, it is also the initiating channel that allows divine energy to flow into creation. Chesed can be thought of as a primary conduit of divine energy. However, it still needs the balance of other Sephiroth, especially Geburah, to give form and structure to that flow. Geburah, in turn, acts as the force that defines, restrains, and guides this manifestation, establishing the essential boundaries that shape Chesed's limitless expansion. Power is a force that must be understood, balanced, and directed with wisdom. The initiation into Chesed and Geburah teaches that power, in its highest form, is a harmonious fusion of giving and restraint, expansion and discipline. To wield power without wisdom is to invite chaos. To restrain power without purpose is to stagnate and oppress. And when these 2 forces are integrated, true power, the power of the divine will, can be expressed by the adept. Tiphereth, Geburah, and Chesed are not the originators of divine will, but instead are their expressions in the structured worlds. The true source lies beyond them, in the higher Sephiroth of Kether, Chokmah, and Benai, the realms of pure potential where divine will emerges before descending into form. To truly wield power is not to command it, but to become a vessel through which it flows.